Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We are diving deep into the latest Port Charles drama, and let me tell you, my mind is absolutely racing after what we just witnessed. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's unpack the absolute masterpiece that our favorite daytime drama is giving us right now. I feel so incredibly overwhelmed in the best possible way by that heart-stopping scene in the Jerome Art Gallery storeroom, because to me, it finally proved that the writers are playing a brilliant, long-term emotional game with Ethan Lovett. When Ethan, bleeding profusely from that gunshot wound, leaned his head back against the cold, dimly lit wall of the storeroom and deliriously confessed to Ava Jerome that he is not Phoebe's biological father, I literally gasped out loud. I think the choice to frame this massive revelation in such a claustrophobic, terrifying setting, with Jen Sidwell literally holding ADA Justine Turner hostage at gunpoint just feet away in the main gallery, was a stroke of absolute genius. It made me feel the suffocating weight of Ethan's secret in a way that a standard living room confession never could. I genuinely think we are missing the point if we just look at Ethan as a rogue or a grifter in this storyline. For weeks, I have been watching him sneak around, and when he broke into the PCPD to steal cold case evidence to fake that DNA test with Elizabeth, I admit I was confused. But the way I see it now, this is the most heroic, tragic arc they could have possibly given him. Ethan didn't rig that paternity test to trap anyone or to pull a con. He did it to protect an innocent baby from her true biological father, who he revealed as a highly dangerous international criminal. I feel like this completely recontextualizes every single shady move he has made since he returned to town. He is literally risking his freedom, committing felonies, and now bleeding out on a storeroom floor, all to stand between a monster and a little girl. I know a lot of people in the fandom are saying this storyline is dragging, or they are complaining about yet another fake DNA test trope, but I actually think the slow burn is exactly what was needed, because I feel like the emotional payoff we just got was earned. If they had rushed this, we wouldn't have felt the sheer desperation radiating from Ethan in that storeroom. I love the way the lighting cast harsh, unforgiving shadows across his pale, sweating face as he weakly murmured the truth. It wasn't a calculated villain monologue. It was the delirious, broken confession of a man who genuinely thought he might die and needed someone to know the truth so the child would stay safe. I think the actor's physical performance here, the trembling hands, the unfocused eyes, sold the absolute terror he feels regarding this international fugitive. And then there's Ava Jerome. I feel like this is the best they have written Ava in years, because her reaction was so incredibly nuanced. When she was pressing the bloody drop cloth against Ethan's wound, her face went through a masterclass of micro-expressions. I think the writer's choice to have Ava be the sole recipient of this secret is brilliant because it taps directly into her own complex history with motherhood and protection. When Ethan gasped out, "I'm not her father, Ava. I had to protect her," I saw the exact moment Ava's cynical, calculating exterior shattered. She had been treating him like a nuisance, a pawn she could blackmail, but in that dimly lit room, she realized she was looking at a man who was sacrificing his own soul to save a child. I believe that realization hit her right in the heart. The way I interpret Ava's silence in that scene, as she absorbed the shock of his sacrifice, is that she is now holding the most dangerous detonator in Port Charles. Just last week, we saw them engaging in this tense, flirtatious blackmail dynamic where Ava smirked and told him, "I have no intention of cooperating with you unless you make it worth my while." I loved that dynamic, but I love this shift even more. The contrast between her smug confidence then and her blood-stained panic now is stunning television. I feel like Ava is standing at a massive moral crossroads. She can either keep this secret and honor the desperate sacrifice of a dying man to protect an innocent baby, or she can weaponize this information to manipulate the Quartermaine family. Speaking of the Quartermaines, I cannot stop thinking about the devastating ripple effect this storeroom confession is going to have on Harrison Chase and Brooke Lynn. I feel physically sick in that delicious, angsty soap opera way when I think about Chase and Brooke Lynn blissfully planning their nursery and finalizing this closed adoption. I think the poetic tragedy of Chase's situation is almost too much to bear. Here is this dedicated, by-the-book police officer who arrested Tracy Quartermaine just to uphold the law, completely oblivious to the fact that the child he is fostering was handed to him based on a faked DNA test and evidence stolen from his own precinct. I feel like the writers have set up a ticking time bomb under the Quartermaine roof, and the suspense is exquisite. In my opinion, Brooke Lynn's current storyline makes this impending paternity explosion even more fascinating. She is currently scheming with Lucy Coe to frame Willow Kane for fleeing the scene of Jordan Ashford's crash to protect her own hit-and-run secret. I think it is brilliant narrative symmetry that Brooklyn is building a house of lies to destroy Willow, while her own domestic bliss with Chase and baby Phoebe is built on a foundation of stolen police evidence and Ethan's desperate fraud. When this secret inevitably comes out, I believe it will completely destroy Chase and Brooklyn's marriage. Chase's entire moral compass is built on truth and justice, and to find out his family was built on a crime, I feel like the emotional fallout will be the best material those actors have ever been given. But let's bring the camera lens tightly back to that storeroom and Ava's internal psychology. I think Ava is genuinely torn. On one hand, she knows what it means to fiercely protect a child from a dangerous world. She knows the lengths a parent, or in Ethan's case, a protector, will go to. I loved how her hands shook slightly as she pressed harder on the drop cloth. It made me feel like she was trying to hold his life force inside his body, but also trying to process the sheer weight of what he just handed her. If this international fugitive is as dangerous as Ethan's delirious terror suggests, Ava is now in the crosshairs too, just by knowing the truth. I believe the writers are setting Ava up for a redemption arc here. I think she is going to choose to protect Phoebe, at least initially, because she recognizes the dark, desperate love that drove Ethan to do this. However, I also know Ava Jerome, and the temptation to hold this over the Quartermain's heads might eventually prove too strong. I feel like the tension of waiting to see what Ava does with this information is going to drive the entire summer narrative. Imagine the scenes we are going to get when Ava has to look Chase in the eye, knowing the baby he is holding isn't legally his and is actively being hunted by a criminal cartel or a fugitive mastermind. The way I see it, Ava is the absolute perfect character to hold this secret because she operates in the gray area between profound maternal love and ruthless self-interest. I also want to talk about the mystery of the real father. When Ethan mentioned the international fugitive, I felt a genuine shiver go down my spine. I think the writers are doing an incredible job of expanding the lore of Delilah Wilson. We originally thought she was just a tragic one-night stand, but now I interpret her past as something deeply entrenched in the criminal underworld. Why was her baby targeted? Who is this man? I feel like Ethan burning that Polaroid on the pier weeks ago wasn't just about burying his own past. It was a desperate attempt to sever any visual link between Delilah and Port Charles so the real father couldn't track them. Every single puzzle piece is clicking into place for me right now, and I am in awe of the meticulous plotting. I know some viewers might argue that Ethan should have just gone to the authorities, but I genuinely think we are missing the point of his character if we demand he act rationally. Ethan has always been a rogue, a man who operates outside the traditional boundaries of the law. In his mind, the PCPD couldn't protect Phoebe from a truly global threat, especially with all the WSB corruption happening right now with Ross Cullum. I think Ethan's choice to fake the DNA test was the ultimate act of taking matters into his own hands. I loved the raw vulnerability in his voice when he told Ava, "I had to do it. They would have found her." It made me feel such profound empathy for a character who is usually so guarded and sarcastic. The juxtaposition of this incredibly intimate, life-altering confession happening while Jen Sidwell is screaming threats at Sonny Corinthos in the other room is a masterstroke of directing. I think having the muffled sounds of the hostage crisis bleeding through the storeroom door heightened the panic of Ethan's confession perfectly. It made me feel like the entire world was closing in on them. Ava is trapped by a madman outside, and trapped by a devastating moral dilemma inside. I feel like this is General Hospital firing on all cylinders, utilizing their sets and their overlapping storylines to create maximum anxiety and drama. I also believe this storyline is going to force a massive evolution for Ethan if he survives this gunshot wound. He has essentially branded himself a felon to save a child that isn't even his. The way I interpret it, Ethan has found a twisted sort of redemption in Phoebe. He couldn't save Delilah, but he is willing to die to save her daughter. I think the fans who are complaining about Ethan being ruined by committing crimes are completely overlooking the beautiful, tragic romance of his actions. He is a dark knight in a police uniform, breaking the law to serve a higher moral purpose. I feel so incredibly invested in his survival right now because I need to see him explain this to Chase and Brooklyn face to face. When the truth finally drops, I think the confrontation between Ethan, Chase, and the Quartermains is going to be explosive. I feel like Chase will initially be blinded by his rigid adherence to the law. He will only see the stolen evidence and the faked swabs. But I believe the emotional climax of this entire arc will be Chase having to realize that Ethan's crime is the only reason Phoebe is safe. I think the writers are setting up a brilliant philosophical clash between Chase's black and white view of justice and Ethan's bloody gray reality. In conclusion, I am absolutely in love with where this show is heading. I feel like the writers have woven a tapestry of secrets, lies, and desperate love that is going to pay off in the most spectacular way. From Ethan's delirious, heart-wrenching confession, to Ava's shocked realization, to the looming devastation of the Quartermain family, every single beat of this storyline is working perfectly for me. I think we are witnessing the birth of a classic soap opera secret, one that will alter the fabric of these characters' lives forever, and I cannot wait to see what happens when the bomb finally goes off.